Hello, everyone, and welcome to Earp Sister Feels. This is our episode number 39. My name is Kevin, and on this video, we're going to be discussing the season 4 finale, episode 412 of Wynonna Earp, Old Souls. And before we get started with things, let's do quick introductions for everybody who's here. First off, we have Rita.
Hi.
Kylie.
Hello.
Jill.
Hello.
Jess.
Hi.
Terry Ann.
Hi.
And Alyssa.
Hello.
The usual crew here as we've been doing all season for these. As I mentioned, this time we're going to be covering just the season finale. I do suspect, based on some of our chats, that we'll probably come back and do like a season 4 recap or some other stuff too. So you won't get rid of us that easy. But we will try to focus mostly on the season 4 finale. And we're recording this one about a week, 10 days maybe after the finale aired, just based on some scheduling availability. So we've had a little time. Some of us have rewatched a bunch, some not so much. So it will be interesting to see in some of our discussions here. But, we certainly have a lot to cover. And as I mentioned just before we hit record, I do not know where to start. I'm going to leave that up to someone else to jump in first. I'm afraid if I go first, what might happen?
I think you should definitely go first. Then,
Every time I go first, it starts at the end of the episode. So
well, Kylie got what she wanted.
I did get what I wanted. I did one half of what I wanted. But I mean, we did get Wynonna in a wedding dress, so that also works.
That's the beginning of the episode.
That is
It
the
is.
beginning.
Look at you go.
Look at me go, guys! I've really grown over this. I was gonna say growth, and I was like, that doesn't work.
A really growth.
I really growth. Yeah. I mean, it started off with a bang. Like it just kind of went right into it, which was a great way to start the episode with the wedding and everything and getting things going. Anyone else? I mean, I only watched it one and like 7 quarters of, again. So
7
but
quarters.
I don't know. It doesn't work. I know. It made more sense in my head, guys.
That's 2 times.
Been a
and
week.
then
It's been a
almost
week.
another. I thought it was interesting that they flipped the personalities again. Like every time there's been a personality switch in this season, is it more like, oh, this is what's actually like the natural dynamic of these two, and they've learned to be different over time.
Could you tell me more?
Yeah, I need to know more.
Well, yeah, like even can I tell you more, Terry? Well, we'll see if the internet cooperates. It usually likes to shut me up real fast. I think even down to like what with Wynonna being like the bridezilla, as everyone's been kind of talking about, like she actually did want all of these things, and she's been saying for so long that she didn't. I don't know. I thought that was interesting to happen right away in this episode.
It's very infrequent for Wynonna to verbally say what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
And she was kind of forced to with I suppose it was another curse by Brigitte.
A little curse.
Little baby curse.
So when you say bridezilla, like Wynonna being the bridezilla, are you talking about?
She was more focused on everything being
like the
right
cake being
and,
perfect
and like things
So
working.
she was bridezilla for Waverly.
Well, she was, but Waverly didn't care that much, so it wasn't for Waverly, in my opinion. 'Cause Waverly was like, it's fine. Nicole was like, it's fine.
she asked her best man the day at like hours before
Yeah.
the wedding.
Yeah, so much for the planner, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how much of Planner Waverly was just her trying not to be that unknown dark entity? Like maybe she wasn't a planner, but how many of us manage our, depression or anxiety or whatever? How many of us do that in that way? Where if I schedule everything, it'll be fine.
Well, then do you think that it was Wynona's real personality, sort of like her true self coming out, or do you think that it was more like she knows kind of the end is happening today? Like the thing that she's been sort of feeling really anxious about this whole season, did she kind of already have an idea that Doc was going to leave? Waverly is getting married. What is next for her? Like, do you think that it was that anxiety playing out, or like
think it
her
was
real
everything.
true self?
Yeah, I think it was all of it. And that's like she was controlling whatever she could.
And
And
she even
also-
said, like she said right like after the dress got figured out, that she wanted to pretend that she could be that kind of normal and like have that kind of love.
Well, I think it's a day where a lot of people were moving on and moving, like, and she's, felt stuck this whole, like she said it, she's like felt like everybody's kind of moving on around her and she can't, right? And not in this episode, but I think in one of the other ones, or maybe it was this episode, I'm getting them all mixed up. But just the fact that like clearly everything is moving on. And so for like one day, it's almost like she wants to feel like she can also kind of get that next step and move on as well. But
I guess I felt like truly she wanted everything to be perfect for Waverly. Like she originally, at the beginning, she wanted it to be perfect for Waverly. She'd been fighting for most of her life, and certainly since she returned. And she'd gone through this, particularly this season, as we talked about, this whole like, I envy Waverly perhaps because she's got this perfect life and it's a life I'll never have. But when it came down to Waverly's Day, I think Wynonna was all in on making this Waverly's Day, and she had a moment of weakness where she was like, okay, I just want to try on the dress. Clearly she didn't think that it was going to become a whole thing, right? Like in her mind, she was going to try on the dress and she'd take it off and they'd go on with the wedding. And that would be something that only she would know she had done. Other than that, I think she wanted this to be Waverly's Day. True. I mean, fully 100%.
Oh,
She
for
wanted
sure.
this to be Waverly's Day.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. She wanted it to be good for Waverly. I think it
Uh,
came from somewhere else also. Within
And
that.
I loved that, and I actually thought it fascinating that she was more concerned that the cake was vegan than Nicole was. Nicole was like, I just won't tell her. Like, don't worry about it.
tell her.
Maybe Nicole was just like really jazzed about actual buttercream. She was like,
Right?
Whoops.
She's like, it's okay, we just won't tell her.
she ordered it that way for sure.
And Waverly, I mean, when we talk about she's like, she was like, don't worry, I actually, I already made my cupcakes. I expected you jokers to serve me buttercream. So I made my own, cupcakes and put them in the freezer. It's all good. You guys are gonna do what you guys do. I've already got it figured out. I got the vegan cupcakes in the freezer already. And you two will just, whatever hijinks you get up to, I'll deal with it.
I do like the dreamer side of Wynonna though, like putting a dress on and like having that like thought of like this could have been me, or like this could be me one day, like the dreamer side of her that you don't see necessarily that often. Even imagining that type of future for herself. That kind of got me a little bit.
When that scene was happening, I was like, I need to know what Kylie's thoughts are on this. Like, I can't wait to hear her perspective, because whatever I've thought of is not.
Yeah.
Where
I just
she
like,
is.
I don't know, like just the idea of like putting on the dress, not expecting it, like not expecting that she'll ever get it, but like for that one moment, like in her mind, she's pretending that she's gonna have it, and it's like, you can have it if you want it.
Wynonna can have
Someone
nice
give it
things
to her.
too.
Yeah, like someone give her that wedding.
Yeah.
She's probably also thinking that there's never going to be another chance
To put on, yeah.
to put on that dress. So I think that's a good part of it too. And I think the the vegan stuff and the cupcakes is probably because Waverly and Nicole are used to that happening, the gatherings or something. So they always have a plan B for the food part of it. It's nothing they worry about because they know, like you were saying, it's going to get screwed up. And it's because Wynonna is so nervous about it wanting to be perfect that, she's going so over the top on it. But I also loved, related to that, when she got in the dress and realized she couldn't get out. The fact that she did actually go to Doc, and you could see just her exasperation of, literally, little help here, like, okay, I totally effed this up, but quickly get me out of this. I mean, that I loved the scenes of her in it, from hiding in his little camper to when they were in the bride's store to when Waverly comes running in and using her hands to cover the dress like she won't notice.
Right.
Come on, like what hand in the cookie jar? I mean, there's no way she's not going to notice that. So
Being
that's
in
not
the
something
cookie
I don't
jar.
think we get to see off of Wynonna, that little
Yeah.
fun, like, part of it. So yeah, it was sprinkled all throughout the first half of the episode. I loved it very much because and I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that it's out of character or that they switch roles a little bit, as it is just so different. It's nice to see that side of Wynonna.
Yeah, it's like I said at the end of last episode, with her being so like super like careful with like the blankets on Doc and everything, and like the happy, like the side of Wynonna that you don't necessarily, the soft Wynonna that you don't see as often when it's not directed at like Waverly specifically. I feel like that's one of the only times you really do see soft Wynonna is with her and Waverly. So to see it kind of more come to light, it's nice.
And I'd be curious to hear some thoughts from each of you on, we touched on it in our recording, almost anyone in the fandom did, with the way everything wrapped up in a bow at the end of the other episode. We all still were like, yeah, but it's purgatory. This won't be a perfect wedding. The little bit of hijinks with the dress and all, once it started to play out, I was chuckling. It's like, okay, this is going to be fun. But what I definitely was surprised was by how quickly that part of it wrapped up. And we were into the wedding, the actual wedding, so quickly that I remember watching and thinking, oh my God. Not only is it happening, but it's not going to be the last 5 minutes. It's going to be most of the episode. So for me, that really, I think, helped to ratchet up some of the emotions, but that they caught me a little off guard. Any of you think that, or did just pacing seem natural?
No, it seemed to me like, yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, oh, we're done with the dress and we're done with the curse. The witch is gone. Like, we got another. Yeah, I felt similar in that, like, I was like, okay, and then I looked down and I looked at the clock and I was like, oh, I have so much more to go yet in this episode, like at the end there. So yeah, it kind of caught me a little bit off guard with how quick it wrapped up. But after seeing the episode, I get why you would want to do that with how much still happened emotionally after, like you said, Kevin, like it caught me off guard. So I was like, wait, what? And then the emotions just kind of went after that. Yeah, it just kind of went, woo! It was like all the fun hijinks. And then it was like, okay, now we're in it. Okay. Yeah. But I like that though. It kind of gave it a nice little, you got the typical sort of, not monster of the week, but you got that Wynonna like purgatory feel, and then you get the like deeper emotional stuff kind of wrapped up after.
Well, I think that it also, like, I don't know, I feel like maybe I mentioned it really early on in the season's episodes, but that sort of there are a few episodes where you're kind of maybe like in earlier seasons, the perspective of like how the audience is meant to feel is sort of on the outside looking at Wynonna. But in season 4, we're supposed to kind of feel what Wynonna is feeling. And I feel like in this last episode, especially with everything being wrapped up so quickly, you're supposed to like feel that sense of relief and feel like, oh, wow, like Nicole and Waverly really got that in like 2 minutes. And they were totally fine. And they had a solution and everything was good. And like, maybe I don't have to necessarily be here for the day-to-day to make sure everyone is safe. Like I feel like they set it up so that 15 minutes in, you're like, all right, okay, like even though things are changing, like there's going to be problems, but people are safe. No one's out of control.
That's helpful. No, no, and I say that it sounds like I'm being facetious. I'm not. Because I was actually, kind of struggling with that. This was a very atypical episode, really, in that, yeah, we had some supernatural genre stuff for like the first 20 minutes, and then it was just human interaction,
Mm.
and I was like, this isn't normal. And it isn't. Like, there's never been another episode where we had the entire second half had nothing to do with supernatural stuff or demons or adversity that we face. I mean, there was adversity that Doc and Wynonna faced, but that was something that had been building up for 4 years, and then that was resolved. And so there was like all these things that we'd been struggling with for 4 years, 5 years, and they were wrapped up in a tidy bow in the last half an hour. And I'd been struggling, like, and I'm still struggling with that. Like, that's, to me personally, that's not what Wynonna Earp is about. Like, it's not about wrapping things up in a tidy bow. But I do like the idea that, and I hadn't thought about it this way, that actually it was Waverly and Nicole that solved the issue. Doc and Wynonna were trying to figure it out, and they had tried to put the Silk Witch back in her whatever. They failed spectacularly, and it was Nicole and Waverly that figured it out, and so that allowed Waverly to tell Wynonna, like, dude, we got this, go. um so I like that. I hadn't really thought about it that way, that actually Waverly and Nicole solved the problem, and that allowed Wynonna to, it gave her kind of like, hey, no, we really got this, you can go. Because I'm still sort of struggling with the fact that there's a lot of tidy bows, and Wynonna Earp is not about tidiness. Like,
We're
really,
conditioned to feel like it's not about tidiness.
no, but it isn't about tidiness. The whole point of it is that life is messy.
Yeah.
Right? Life is super messy. And just because it's messy doesn't mean you're not successful. It doesn't mean you can't go on, you can't keep going. And so to have it be tidy at the end just seems strange to me.
They're still riding a motorcycle to Cleveland
Without helmets.
without helmets.
No
I'm pretty
thanks.
A
sure.
lot can
No
happen.
thanks.
Pretty sure that's not as tidy as it could be.
Yeah,
But
Wyatt
no,
Earp,
I hear what you're saying, Jill. I
But
get
it's
that.
also on that thought, it to me is, see, I wouldn't quite use the word tidy bow. What I think has been interesting, and you're absolutely right, though, in terms of we've tended to have so many, since we have so many rich characters, and each episode often gives us parts of what's happening with each of them. So at the ends of the episodes and the ends of the season, some are up, some are down, some you're not sure where they're at, and things like that. In this one, certainly by the end, things are much calmer, but it's not a tidy bow to me. I mean, it's a start now for Nicole and Waverly. But anyone who's been in a long-term relationship knows, there's going to be different challenges now for them that they're married. And Doc and Wynonna, we know from what's happened to them that while they were in a great place at this moment, any crap could hit the fan and they're going to be back in, throwing shoes at each other or whatever, So I think we got a snapshot, we got a moment in time where we see things in a much more calm way, but I don't see it tied up. That's the beauty, I think, of what could happen, is that, at least for me, again, we can be very happy with where we last seen the characters. But as we often know from series, when they end, you talk about how we all like to envision that just because they're not showing us new stuff on screen, they're all still off doing their adventures somewhere. So we hope it's in a happy place. So, I mean, I can still see a dozen ways, which I'm sure none of them will actually happen, that season 5 could start, because Emily's done a nice way of finding do a little lull. So maybe that's just me with the term there, Jill, but I
Time
get what
jump.
you mean.
No,
Huh?
no, I think I'm saying no. I actually think that there's like 1,000 things that they should and can explore. There's so many open questions. There's so much. There's so much unanswered, both in terms of the relationships as well as just the plot. Like the fact that Eve never came back.
Yep.
Or
Or did she?
Hasn't come back
She-
yet, maybe.
It's like the biggest glaring. I don't know why people would think that. Yeah, I like in terms of tidy, I would go, that's the least tidy thing. Like you put this out there, it hangs over the whole season, and you never come back to it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm not saying I think that the series could end there. No, there's a whole bunch more, but it still as an episode, it just was strange to me that
Well, we're not used to seeing these folks all happy.
right.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
probably
That's
what
what
it
I'm saying. We're
was.
Same time.
conditioned to not
yeah,
thinking
all of them
this way.
together at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, how perfect is that end of 406 in that regard, as far as seeing the scene with Rachel and Wynonna, after the proposal, just one absolute joy and the other one absolute pain. It's like, yep, that's an Earp episode right there. That's it.
That's
Yep.
it. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what we're usually expecting. So yes, I totally get it. It's funny when you said that. It's like, yes, you're right, that we're not used to this, but in kind of an odd way to me. I think of it a lot like with Wynonna over the seasons. Okay, we're not used to it, but damn it, I'm glad we got
Yes. Yes.
it. Let me have my moment kind of thing for us.
Like I actually ended the episode with a smile on my face. Like a smile, guys.
And tears.
And tears. But like happy tears, not like, oh God, what's gonna happen tears. I think
Rita,
Rita's
what were you gonna
dying to
say?
talk about Eve.
No, I can't even wrap my head about where she is.
Maybe she's in Miracles, Montana.
Oh.
Ew.
Oh.
Wow.
Maybe.
No, I'm really happy. I feel like a lot of people made their peace, and I mean that in all of the show ways there, which I think we're not used to, because when someone makes their peace, someone else doesn't. Someone else is uncovering lots of other things.
Well said.
And that's our episode.
Yeah, I also thought it was just a really nice way to kind of, on one hand, wrap things up, but also kind of open the door for everyone to have like new chapters for everyone. So that definitely, like you said, Joel, there are so many things that can still be explored in season 5. Fingers crossed. Yeah, but just like for this moment in time, it's like regardless of what happens, everyone is like happy right now, and look at all of the potential we have to continue to explore further down the line. So I loved the pacing of this one. I think there was maybe like one moment where I was watching and thinking like, yeah, oh, there's still so much time and they wrapped this up, but I was just like, I don't even care. I'm so ready to be just happy for everyone and happy with everyone, all of these characters. So just give me all the happiness. Like drama's great, and I'm always like, yeah, drama, whatever. But this was, I just wanted to like sit in the fields and just have everyone enjoy their moments.
I think I went into this episode expecting to be trying to keep up the whole time based on the last season finale. Because Emily packs a lot into all of her storylines and all of her episodes. So I was like, oh, am I following? Just having like looking at the screen, looking down at my phone, looking at the screen, looking down at my phone, trying to see if I was actually keeping up or missing things. But I think I was expecting to be overwhelmed by the amount of stuff I was trying to follow. So maybe that's part of the like, oh, this is nice feeling of this episode. Like, it was a lot, but it was also way less chaotic despite everything that I was watching.
Yeah,
Even
and
down to like Waverly dropping all the F-bombs. I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
I love that.
uh,
We're gonna talk about that barn
Yes,
scene.
yeah, I was
Kevin.
going to say, who's
Yes,
I'm
Kevin.
not going to be the first one to bring it up.
I wasn't gonna bring it up.
Like, well, like, you know, we're talking about this happiness, and like when just thinking of me thinking when you guys were talking, like with all this happiness came the release, especially between Wynonna and Waverly, of all that pain, especially from like Waverly's side in the bar scene with like what she was saying about like, I mean, I could recite that whole scene.
Please
but
do.
I'm trying to find like the main part, like about her biggest fear being that that Wynonna would never come back, and that she would never get to know the real Waverly. But like telling Wynonna that she knows now that she will, because you know that like purgatory, the homestead, it's her home. And so like that release of all that pain, I think was a big moment for her or Waverly.
Did Waverly know the real Wynonna at the beginning of this?
I think so, because
series?
Waverly's the one that busts out of the homestead and is like, "You freaking morons!"
Mhm.
Like,
I mean, like
how
from the
are you?
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that she sort of finally does. Like when I'm sure that, you know, like we don't see it, but I'm sure that we hear, or Waverly hears that, you know, Doc is leaving. And I'm sure that, you know, in Waverly's heart, she knows that it's the right thing for Doc to do, and just hopes that that Wynonna is brave enough to make the same decision.
Mhm. Yeah, and like it took Waverly saying that Wynonna loves Doc out loud for Wynonna to be like,
Mhm.
fuck, I do.
Well,
And-
and even Waverly saying like, "Don't put this on me," like this
Mhm.
isn't, because you also see Wynonna put it on Doc, and well, I mean, you know, and we see Wynonna sort of put that on everyone in order to
It's
sort
easier.
of not have to make decisions. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm. Well,
make
and
lots of hard decisions, but not self decisions.
Waverly all season has been telling Wynonna, like, you love Doc, you love Doc,
Mhm.
you love Doc. You know, from she knows, like she's always known that Wynonna loves Doc, and it will, and until Doc actually, like Doc was bound there, like he wasn't gonna leave. He was bound to the Ghost River Triangle because he was a vampire and he couldn't leave, presumably. And so it wasn't until, you know, literally one episode before that he now had the ability to leave, and he chose to leave. And that's when, you know, Waverly was like, Wynonna, you love him, go after him. Like, I feel like she was like, I would, like, I'd leave this place in a heartbeat if Nicole was hightailing it out of here. So you should leave this place in a heartbeat if, you know, your love is hightailing it out of here.
Yeah.
It
So
really does call back to 110, like a whole lot. My brain just exploded. Because the first thing that Waverly says after she finds out that Wynonna and Doc sleep together in 110, she says, after making a joke about one of them being a lot older than the other, she says, "But do you love him?" And Wynonna's like, "Waverly, it's just sex." And then
she says it's
Wynonna
not.
walks away, and Waverly says, "Well, that's not a no."
Mhm.
And then she stops Doc in the pink car, and she's like, "You should try. I'm
Like,
trying. You should try." And Doc says, "Well, the difference is she adores you back."
Mhm.
Love it.
Wow.
But one of the interesting things I just realized, and I didn't like the parallel of like Doc has always been bound to the Ghost River Triangle. He is no longer bound, but now Nicole is bound to the Ghost River Triangle. Like the idea of like how that swapped, and like for the sisters in general in terms of who they love, is so fascinating. I didn't even realize it until Jill just started talking too. I'm gonna go down a spiral. It's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening.
And it all started because Alyssa asked, does Waverly really know Wynonna? And my answer is like, I think she does. Like, I think she knows Wynonna better than Wynonna knows Wynonna.
I think that's true. Yeah, that's true to Wynonna's nature. The same as like Wynonna's always like pushing, not pushing, but like she's always guiding Waverly and Nicole together to be happy and like very much giving them advice and stuff, but doesn't take her own advice, right? It's the same thing as you can give your friends the best advice, but you'll never take your own personal advice. And the struggle that she has with that. And I don't know, this whole episode has me.
And I think she's used wanting to save Waverly as a crutch.
Oh yeah.
And even the simple lines of like, I'm the Earp Bear, I'm the only one that can wield Peacemaker. She said that several times. And like, you're the light, I want to save Waverly. And like
It's
this
easier.
episode,
It's not as scary.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's scarier when it's your own personal journey.
And like even like when the Silk Witch was like, the chooser chooses the dress and it's only if they're in love, like how Wynonna like shies away from Doc and Waverly, like when her like love for Doc is kind of brought out into the open.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Doc says that in like in the lines of battle, she's the greatest hero, but in love, she's a coward.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Doc saying that, I mean, obviously that there's a lot of it that's about the two of them, but do you think that finally when it comes down to Waverly and Wynonna having the conversation in the barn, do you think Wynonna realizes that she's been making similar cowardly decisions because of her love for Waverly? Or do you think she still sort of feels like up until this very moment, all of those decisions have been the right one? Like, why eventually does she actually choose to leave?
For me,
Easy answer, I think it's because Waverly pushed her. Like she was like, no, don't make this about me. Go live your life for you and that you love Doc.
But no one makes Wynonna make decisions except Wynonna.
Yeah. That's
So
why I
like,
said
what was it?
What were you going to say, Kevin?
I was going to say, for me, I think Wynonna doesn't think she deserves the happy ending. With all that's gone on, she just doesn't think she does. So it doesn't even occur to her. Doc is convenient, it's a way to blow off steam, to have some fun. And then
He was never going to leave. So it was always an option.
Always going to be there. Yep, always going to be there. And since she had no intention of leaving either, because to her, protecting Waverly was job number one. Hey, this is a great, match. We're going to go up and down, in terms of the quality of our relationship, but it's always going to be here. So I just think I didn't see Waverly telling her, hey, don't put this on me, as pushing her. I think it finally just broke the shackle she felt of, I don't deserve to be the one to go after happiness. As far as the Doc situation goes. Yes, she needed to know that Waverly was safe, and Waverly did a great job of, hey, Nicole being the shield, and you've seen what I can do and everything else. It certainly helped to reinforce it, but I just think it was that Waverly getting her to finally say, and you put it very well, Rita, she has been saying for years, certainly this season, so often, even right down to that little campfire scene in front of the homestead there, a couple episodes back, Doc is there, Doc is here for you, go to Doc, and it finally just, like the wood, the stone cutter thing, the millionth hit finally does it, but it's a combination of all of them leading up to that, rather than that one. As poetic and wonderful as that scene in the barn was, that was kind of the one to break it, at least for me.
And I mean, really, in terms of like the actual plot of the show, Wynonna had to protect Waverly. Like, there was a curse, and only Wynonna could, protect Waverly from that curse up until what, the end of
Season 3.
season 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think Wynonna. I do think Wynonna, up until season 3, she truly was, like, she was there because she wanted to be there, but also she had to be there. She was the only one that could protect Waverly. Throughout season 4, Waverly's grown, Nicole has grown. They've gotten to the point where, hey, Wynonna, we would love you to stay, but you're not entirely, like, you're not the only one that can do this anymore. And I think that they've been building to that all season, to say, Wynonna, you can go and live your own life now.
Yeah. And I think Wynonna for herself alludes to that in the line that she says to Doc, it's been a long time since I traveled light. Like, where she kind of feels this burden lifted off of her shoulders.
It's fascinating. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, this kind of makes me think of the reasons that people avoid doing the things that they're afraid of, whether it's the fear of failure or even like the fear of success. And so I think of with Wynonna, how she is finally seeing that these are real possibilities for her to have happiness, to have love. So she's kind of like, this is the moment where she decides to let go of that fear of succeeding, and like, this could be a great thing. You could actually do this. And what would that look like if you just let yourself go and imagine, going back to what you said earlier, Kylie, with that, that dreamer aspect. Imagine what would happen if you succeeded at all of these things that you really wanted. So yeah, I don't know. It just feels like such a really beautiful moment to, for her to just let go of that and accept I could have these things. So yeah, that's just kind of what came to my mind.
Yeah, I think part of the fear too would be like getting something and succeeding at getting it and then having it taken away.
Mhm.
Like, which I think, I'm not trying to project my own personal stuff on this, but like, I think that a lot of people, like, you fear the failure, but you can also fear the success and becoming not dependent on that success, but like you getting the thing that you've always wanted only to have it easily ripped away somehow. And I think part of Wynonna's journey has always been, the fear. I think part of her fears of getting something like Doc, like having, like finally being with Doc, but then losing him again. And I think that's also probably part of it. It's the same with like why she probably would have kept Waverly at arm's length at first, because like she gets her sister back only to have it ripped away again, potentially. And there's always that fear of like not trusting that you can ever be at a level where you're happy and always happy, like the dream. There's like
Mhm.
there's always that shoe to drop. You just think there's going to be a shoe to drop somewhere in here. And I think Wynonna has that in the back of her mind, especially with like the curse for years and stuff like that, that like, I can't ever have happiness because something's always going to come along to break up that happiness.
Yeah, because if you think about it, besides Waverly being her happiness, has she ever truly had happiness with like her whole life?
She's run from it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
And she's even
ripped
said
from
multiple
her.
times too that like, that she's a fuck up. So like, that's what she knows in her head. Like, well, what if you didn't have to be that? You could choose something different,
Yeah.
There's also a lot of pressure too, I think, of being not a fuck up, right?
Of everyone saying you are, but also like trying to actually, like live up to not being. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this Wynonna was set up in the season 3 finale, when she actually said to Waverly that she was her backup
Mm.
finally, So I think that might have been the beginning from a story point of view of her going, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to be always be the protector of her. You know, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to, certainly in a full series rewatch, knowing what we now know at the end, seeing some of these moments earlier
Mhm.
and seeing what the impact of them is and how they lead into what comes later. That's just fascinating to think about.
It is, yeah.
It's funny to me, this, I don't know if anybody else felt like this, but at the end of this episode, I almost felt like it was the start of the series. Does that make sense? Like I could almost,
Yeah, start
like,
of a new beginning kind of
yeah,
thing.
like it ended, but like I'm like, okay, like this felt like the end of a pilot episode where like I'm like, okay, they're going on an adventure, like on their motorcycle, where are they going? Like to me, it felt like this could have been the start of the entire series, the way it ended. And I loved that about it. I loved the way it ended because to me it like opened up so many possibilities of like, I can't wait to like, I was like, okay, great. So now they go see Alice and like there's all this stuff, but it felt like a new beginning. Yeah.
There was also a lot of like callbacks to the pilot episode too. So I feel like that was intentional.
Maybe.
So you have that feeling
Yeah.
again, reminiscent of the pilot episode.
Same outfit, same
Mm-hmm.
walking up the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of the folks watching the video right now and all have been checking out some of Cam's recent fan vids.
Mm.
I can't.
We're gonna go there. We're gonna go there.
No, only in the
but-
sense that
Oof.
it's very much for me in seeing those, including the ones you just released the day we're recording, the Wynonna one, seeing several of those scenes of her physically standing in front of Waverly, her with part of her arm reaching around to make sure she can touch her, protect her. Just the basic the big sister part of it. That's just instinct without thought. You know, it's just been such an amazing journey to see that evolve and grow and change. And that's too what part of this episode just hits me on the rewatches of it is just aside from the beauty of the wedding and the happiness of the couples and the characters that we love, knowing how far each of them has come. Just like any of us with any of our, in real life friends or relationships, you see it in such small increments over such a long period of time. How that's the beauty of a TV show. How often do you get to go back to that moment 2, 3, 4 years earlier and go, wow, this such growth, such change.
Even the impact of just empty chairs with names on it. Like,
Mhm.
like not to bring that in, Kevin, but you
Uh.
look at that and it's just like you're saying though, Kevin, like all of those stories, all of those relationships, like they're not even there, but you can feel it. Like you can feel that friendship and love.
I don't know about you folks, but watching this episode, there were several points, and we already touched on it just a teeny bit with the Waverly asking Doc to be your best man. Were points to get where I got emotional, but I got emotional, then I kind of got it back together, and I'm watching. But when the chair scene happened,
Oof,
Mhm.
Mhm.
did
Lost
not
it.
get it back for the entire rest of that.
Was
Did
the-
not. But just that reason, Kylie, because
Yeah.
all of a sudden all those stories and people flooded back, and
And the
all those
feelings you
things.
got by watching, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was beautiful though. Like I thought it was so beautiful that like you didn't need all the, like most shows would have a wedding like that and they would make it huge. They would make it like every character there, everyone comes back from past season, like stuff like that. And I loved how beautiful it was that they didn't do that and that it was so powerful, even just seeing the names of these characters that we've known and loved throughout this entire series. And just like you didn't need to see them to feel them there.
Mhm.
And for me, I think part of that had to do with, as I saw each of those names, each of us would have different memories of those characters' relationships. So, it made it very personal to us, and seeing a character there, that actual character Not that they wouldn't have been great, but we would have, again, we would have seen them as they are the day of the wedding, not
Mhm.
in season 1 or 2 or 3, because
Yeah.
I'm sure some of those ones, just certain things stick to us differently. So that's
Yeah.
that's what I think allowed a lot of us to have such a personal, not that we didn't already, but an even more personal feel to that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite shots of the movie, oh my God, the show. It felt like a movie, but one of my favorite shots of the whole episode was the chairs stuff, just because it just felt so powerful.
Yeah. Just, yeah, the
And-
whole ceremony.
All of it, every moment of it.
Even, when right before Waverly says her vows, how she still looks to Wynonna. And it's, I don't know, that's a moment that like makes me cry, like seeing like just that pure love that they each have for each other.
I didn't hear it on the first time I watched it. I caught it on the second one, and I'll never get over it. Which is one of, when Wynonna says, "You're the best of us, baby girl," but Waverly's response is, "I love you too, sis."
Yeah, love you too, sis.
Like, it was the
That
acknowledgement
moment's
that
about to
saying
happen.
that and again, Wynonna Earp has a whole different language. You don't have to say "I love you" to say "I love you." And Wynonna saying "You're the best of us, baby girl" is, and from Waverly's response, which is "I love you too," that is acknowledgement that what she was saying was "I love you."
Yeah, and with the forehead touch.
I was going to say the
Waiting
forehead
for
touch
someone
is
to
what
bring
killed
that
it.
up.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have that in all caps, Kevin. Forehead touch.
You should go back and think of all the times they've been in front of the fireplace or wherever broken, and that's what they're doing. So to get to do it at a joyful moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
not
and like
used
even
to.
to go off what Jill just said, like how you don't have to say "I love you" by saying the words "I love you," could be other words, but with the forehead touch, even just a gesture, like it says "I love you."
And the forehead touch was in almost every scene in this episode.
Mhm.
I mean, Nicole and Waverly are doing it on the porch.
Mhm.
There's other multiple times, so you know it's a callback. You just know it is.
And Waverly has notoriously, particularly when it comes to Nicole, had trouble saying the words "I love you."
Mhm. For
And
anyone.
I will have to go back and see if she's ever, like, have Wynonna and Waverly ever said "I love you"?
201.
Rita's like, sure, my notebook.
Bring the book.
That's the only time. And
What was the context? Just remind me.
they're in the kitchen. It's when the rest of the gang meets Eliza and Waverly. And you have to remember that Waverly is like kind of heightened or whatever by Miction at this point. She's possessed. She sort of like scolds Wynonna for like not having slept or showered because Dolls has been captured and they're missing. They haven't gone to BBD yet. And Waverly takes Wynonna into Willa's bedroom because it was before it was Waverly's, which, between the two of them, they had like just lost Willa again. And Wynonna says something like, like Waverly wants to be involved in going to BBD, and Wynonna is like, then why am I letting you do this? Like, why am I letting you put yourself in danger again? And Waverly says, because I love you. And Wynonna looks at her like in this way, and I always remember it because she looks at her in like this way of like disbelief. Like she also has not heard this in years. Like she has not heard her family tell her that she's loved in 4+ years. That's the only other time.
Wow.
I track Waverly's "I love yous" because
She doesn't say them often. And I love going back to like 212 when Wynonna just gave birth, and when she was screaming at Peacemaker and screaming at Waverly and saying "You're the best of us," and then when Waverly takes the baby and she's just about to exit shorties, and she turns and says, "You're wrong, Wynonna, you're the best of us." And so you can now look back at that and say, like, we knew at the moment she was saying, "I love you." And like with this episode, like we now know that that is in fact the direct translation. "You're the best of us," between them is the same thing as "I love you."
Mhm. Or "You're my light," like in Wynonna's words.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, and also talking about with both Earp sisters really are very reluctant to say "I love you," and also very reluctant to speak about what they're afraid of. And since this whole episode is about callbacks, oh, I'm gonna keep it together, guys. I'm gonna keep it together. The only other time that Waverly has explicitly discussed what she's scared of is when she's talking to Nicole on the couch and telling her, and and Nicole obviously says, she says, "I scare you." And Waverly's like, "Yes, thank you. Like, thank you for helping me get this off of my chest." But then in the barn, she tells Wynonna that her biggest fear is that Wynonna wouldn't come back.
Mhm.
So then you go back to the times back to 109, where Waverly is talking about.
No.
Talking about what? Oh, no.
Oh,
But
I
you
thought it was my
automatically like
internet.
go back.
No, pause. You cut out.
No!
Ugh.
It got you too, Rita.
You got
You
a
said
lot of it. You got
back.
a lot of it.
You said back in 109, and then you froze.
Oh my God, really?
Yep.
Oh no. Ah. So any of the Waverly
got,
talking
like-
to Nicole?
Yes, like
Got
she had
that.
said something to Nicole, and Nicole said, "Yes, you scare me." And then she said something in the barn to Wynonna, and then
Yeah.
you cut out.
Dang it. But darn it. There's no way to
Recreate that.
no.
Well,
I didn't write it in my notebook, guys. I know.
That was a
Are we
freak-
never gonna know?
you improv that?
It was just a feeling I had.
Oh, nice.
I was talking about my feelings. Well, I was talking about the Earp sisters' feelings. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to rewatch this and figure out where I left out, and then I'll be able to maybe piece it back together.
It was about Waverly talking about her fears. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Earp sisters don't share their fears. and
No.
Waverly share
Well, yeah, but it's mostly just that you have to. The whole thing is about sort of thinking back to where they were, and you have to wonder was Waverly so scared to even admit it then that she there's only 2 times that she's talked about what she's scared of, and to not talk about her family in that in that moment you have to think about how much they've grown, and how how stable and how safe they feel in their relationship to be that vulnerable when the 2 of them are the least vulnerable people and in all of Canada.
In all of
and actually in that scene with Waverly and Wynonna, that was the first time Wynonna admitted that she loved Doc.
That too.
So that was a moment and it was the first time Waverly expressed her fears, and it's the first time Wynonna admitted she actually loved Doc. That was a pretty raw moment between the Earp sisters.
And
And
like
they-
someone mentioned, set up beautifully by Waverly coming out, grabbing her by the ear, and telling them all to fuck,
Yeah.
fuck
Those
that.
are
I
the
mean,
best.
talk about getting Wynonna's attention. I
Oh,
mean,
so good.
The only thing, so I have to say, and because I'm a gentle perv, and the only thing I would have wanted more from that was for, instead of saying "not you, honey," I would have
Oh, yeah.
preferred something like "later, honey."
later, honey.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I also know about standards and whatnot, and you're allowed to say fuck you as just as an expletive, but you're not allowed to use it as a verb ever.
Ah.
Interesting.
That's
So-
stupid.
So that's why she couldn't, I'm sure, but still in my mind she did.
Who makes these rules? I'm just kidding. I know exactly who makes these rules.
Yeah, exactly. A bunch of white Anglo-Saxon, wasps. Yeah, basically. Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Yeah, that's who makes the rules. Sorry, I went a little there.
Can I just say one thing about this episode that bothered me?
Yes.
It's very
Yes.
random. So Jill, get ready. So at the end, when they're standing in the road and they're kissing, Doc's like so softly puts his hat on Wynona's back. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. And then not like 10 minutes later, they get on the bike and he just shoves the hat in. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
We left Wyatt's saddle in the middle of the road.
I thought about that. I was like, how are they gonna get his saddle back? But I believe that Jeremy or Waverly or Nicole would have gone back and got Charlene.
All I know
Wynonna
is
would have
it was
called
just for
them.
the hat. He was so soft with the hat on her back so that he didn't crush it. And then he just goes, whoosh. I was like, not the hat. Protect the hat. Anyways, that was a random moment that for me just got me. That's all.
Right.
It's
And
nothing to do with anything else. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Wait, Jess, do you have the quotes from when right before Doc drives off and he's talking to Wynonna and they're talking about like the deep bottom of the well love.
oh,
Wynonna says, I can't leave her. And he
That's
says,
Jessica.
then you know what I'm talking about.
that's a different, that's two separate scenes. So the one you're talking about is before Waverly drags.
Yeah, before that.
What I have from that scene is Doc says they say life is short, but it is long and it is lonely. So if you manage to find a group of souls that will tolerate you and elevate you, and one who will especially love you, well, that's what it's all about. That's what the fight is really for. She's like, please, I can't leave her. Wait, hold on. Wait, what are you wanting? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's what I want.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
Do you want me to say it again?
Just
Or
have the
Yeah,
quote.
because she says, please, I can't leave her. And then what does
then
he
you
say?
do know of what I speak.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I keep telling you that we're the same. And you are without a doubt the best Earp that I've ever had the privilege of calling friend. And then Wynonna says, Doc, I'm sorry for all the ways I hurt you. And Doc says, we only ever really hurt ourselves, Wynonna. I wouldn't have changed a note.
Oof.
Right?
Love that.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
some good writing right there.
I tell you what, in that very moment, this whole season that I've been so mad at Doc, in my mind, I was like, of course I was supposed to be mad at Doc because
Yes.
I know, Kylie, I know.
Mm.
But that, I mean, I even was talking about how like the whole episode is about there's a lot of people making peace, but Doc has made his peace a long time ago, and Wynonna just isn't ready. And since we're like supposed to feel like Wynonna, I've just been pissed off at him this whole season until that moment. So
And at the beginning of that scene, I didn't write it down, but he talks about how like what he thought about in that well, like, yeah, the pain and the hurt, but what he mostly thought about was love. It's
Telling you, Rita, this
I mean,
whole
that-
time.
That quote of his, though, is us. It's the fans. It's the
Mhm.
show. It's the 4 seasons into just a couple sentences.
Yep.
It's another amazing nod to the fans and the fandom. And
It's what the fight is really for.
Okay, guys, I'm trying here real hard.
Well,
I'm trying here real hard.
I have something that
Kevin.
makes me cry thinking about it, but I'm gonna save it for the end.
Jazz trying to murder us at the end.
And like something else that I liked, you know, part of why a small part of why Wynonna loves Doc so much is how much that he loves Waverly too.
That
And like the
moment.
fact that she said that
Yeah.
to him was also another
That was one of
big-
my biggest, like, besides the chair scene, that was also one of my biggest moments, was the like, I love how much you love my baby sis. Like, it's just like
Mhm.
woof, gone.
And like from the moment like where she decides to go, like there's just this like lightness, like you could feel as an audience watching the way that she carried herself, that this weight had been lifted for her, like from her.
And everyone's excitement, that's what made me too, like just everyone's excitement of like, get her there somehow, everyone, let's get her there. And it was just like, I don't know, to me that was like such a combination of like the whole show of like Wynonna thinking she needs to do something on her own as always, or go through something on her own, and everyone rallying around her. Obviously Waverly being the one to knock some sense into her at the end of the day and like push her to do what she needs to do, but then to have the Nedleys, the, you know, like the Jeremys, the Nicoles of the world to like rally around being like, yes, we've got you, Earp, like let's go. That to me was like such a pivotal whole circle scene for me.
Yeah.
Of like, you see how she started this journey getting on a bus by herself in the first episode to the end of this episode where everyone's behind her, pushing her to do something. Like it's not out of obligation any, like she came back kind of out of obligation in some ways, but this is like she's leaving not out of obligation but like out of like her own personal want.
Mhm. With a family behind her that
Yeah.
loves her.
Yeah, just saying, just in food for thought.
Mm.
Just food for thought.
Mhm.
The bit where Waverly, when they're in the barn talking and they're having that conversation and she's like, well, your name's on the mailbox, is the opposite of the beginning of the show where the mailbox was wrecked and everyone was asking her why she came back. Whereas now we've gotten to the end of this point and like, well, of course you're gonna come back.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
And not only does it say Earp, but it says hot,
Mhm.
sometimes holiday. Everyone loves it.
Sometimes holiday made me laugh so hard.
Yeah. And did anyone catch that Wynonna was carving? I mean,
Yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Yeah,
She
made
like
me so
pushed
happy.
to the dress.
Kylie, is that how that works with a pocket knife?
Yes, that's exactly how we do it. I honestly am gonna remake that. You have no idea. I'm gonna make one that says sometimes holiday and I'm gonna put it in my room.
Yes, yes.
In your
please.
room? Is that what you said?
Put it in my room.
In your room? Perfect.
Mm.
Excellent.
Jess, are you gonna do it? Because I
I
feel like you're
can
gonna
if
do
we're
it.
ready. Just the fact that the last word of this episode is home. And when this show has like given us, like we found our home in this show and the people that it's brought us, it's a really special thing and it means a lot. And so like I didn't catch it on the first or the second. It wasn't until the watch right before we started where I heard like was like writing down that dialogue and was like home. And that's what this show is.
I'm good. I'm fine.
Drink to that. Clink clink.
Yeah, that pan up of the mailbox and the signs.
Mhm.
Talk about fucking brilliant.
Mhm.
I love Kevin swearing.
I
almost as
know.
much
I
as
just got
love
so
Waverly
happy.
swearing.
I just got so happy. I was like, Kevin swearing's the best.
It's just so much.
understated.
There's so much here.
Mhm.
I mean, the episode, the series. It's just hard not to get a little overwhelmed by it. It's, it's too special. It's just way too special.
It lives forever.
Yeah.
Does.
It does.
Does. And it's such a rich story, and the rewatches are going to allow us all to pick up things, small things, or even, like you said, Jess, just the single word at the end. And we've all watched many of these episodes many times, so but it's always fresh, and it's the ability to experience it with other people. I mean, just us getting together to do these. I don't want to draw corny parallels, but I'm gonna, because I mean, when I started these, it was just the ability to do, that a single video, and then you all replied separately, and we put them together individually. So kind of like, the characters in the story were very much individuals to a certain degree. And then as it went on, they came together. And we've been able, through simple technology, to now be together when we drop these truth bombs on each other, or throw something that just makes our head fall back and eyes roll back in our head. So we've been able to experience it differently. I mean, obviously no one wanted a pandemic to be going on in the world or to be affecting this final season, but the ways that it did, I think, ended up giving us more than we might have got if it hadn't. Getting the airings separated into two different groups gave us two different things to look forward to during lockdowns. COVID not allowing them to have as many people on set means we got even more scenes of just our wonderful lead characters together. The beauty of the chair scene, I'm sure, was a COVID situation too. Not being able to get a lot of people there. Things just happen sometimes, and sometimes it brings out the beauty of what we've got.
Yeah, like I definitely did not think when I made my first Earp Sister 5-second video that I'd be sitting in a group of people chatting with these amazing people. So
Oh my
100%.
God. The first time I think I redid it 20 times. I was like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that.
I feel like we should go back and do a video where we just watch. It's our live reactions to our first videos or something.
Oh man.
But hey, putting yourself on video isn't easy either. So major kudos to all of you and some of the other folks who left videos at different times. I mean, stepping up and doing that. It was such a joy to see. And we've gotten so many great comments over the years from folks who just dive in too. So I mean, it's just wonderful to be able to share it and do it. And again, don't ever want to lose sight of that and how special it is. So I'm just going to spiral. So someone cut me off.
Well said, Kevin.
Talk about something else. Okay, one thing we haven't talked about is the scene with the Miracles, Montana.
With the what?
Miracles, Montana.
Alice.
I mean, oh my God. Oh my God.
Everything I've always wanted.
Complete with Wynonna bringing back Doc's line.
Yep,
all in. Oh my God.
And to think, just from watching the behind the scenes, wasn't that their last their last days filming? So to potentially that could have been Mel's last scene that she filmed and the last words that she said. I don't know if it was, but potentially it could have been, right?
The last thing that they
Mel
all shot
filmed
together was in, maybe, but it was definitely towards the end. I think the way it looked in some of those behind the scenes.
I feel like they handed her the mic and she was saying goodbye
after
they walked together
on the road. Yeah,
He was on the motorcycle.
Okay, I know.
But still, to have the last scene right in front of the purgatory sign.
Right. The big middle finger flipping off.
I just, in my mind, I've already planned out what has happened with them on the road and everything. I don't know about you guys, but I'm okay, so I know exactly where they go, what happens. you know, I'm all over it.
Mhm.
Is that a real place?
No,
No. I knew somebody would have. I definitely didn't look it up, but I figured somebody would.
look, I'm from Canada. I don't know.
No, apparently a
It's-
bunch of people looked it up. There is no such place as Miracle
Oh,
Mountain.
I didn't bother because I knew I could just ask somebody later.
It's for each.
There might be like in a year or two. There might.
yeah.
I mean, there's Hell, Michigan, and there's
Look, the mayor's name is Alice. It's fun.
Exactly. There's going to be an Earper that just declares this square mile is now Miracles, Montana.
I love it.
Population Earper. You know.
And there will be a pilgrimage. It will be filmed.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yes.
There is no doubt.
Let's name the town Miracles, Montana. It's like Hannah, Montana. Doesn't matter where it is.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much more to rewatch. I'm not done. I don't know.
Neither.
I'm ready to keep going.
Yeah.
How many scenes between all of these seasons have taken place at that sign, like with a major turning point to the story? Because as soon as
Yeah.
well, like the first episode when or the second, is the first one where she's shooting Peacemaker at the sign?
Yeah, I think it's the first one.
There's that. There's the one with dolls and the fireman.
Bobo at the end of
situation.
season 1.
Like how many moments actually happen where it's like a serious
Alice.
conversation is happening right there?
Yep.
Did the vampires get off the bus that's actually there?
Yeah, it's like the crossroads of purgatory. There's no crossroad. It's
Juan
just
Carlo and
one way or the other.
Mhm.
I mean, that's right there. But
Did someone take that sign home? Do we know what happened? to the
God, I
sign?
hope Emily has it like in her basement somewhere.
Yeah.
It's on her garage door now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's her garage door.
And definitely want to just give again major kudos, Jill, for creating the baby girl collages,
Mm-hmm.
the updated one for season 4. And
I need to thank them for keeping it in a very even number. That was easy to put in a square 12. If it had been 13, I have no idea what I would have done.
you know what you need to do, Jill, is make it into one of those custom like tissue paper things where it's just the tissues in the box is just printed with all of those. So
Oh,
Kevin
there,
doesn't
can we
have to
pull one
switch.
out? And,
Oh my God.
Just- I'm
maybe
kidding.
I'll look into that. I'll look into that.
and I do love the fact, as a lot of people talked about on Twitter, how the number of the baby girls in season 4 just skyrocketed compared to the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
After we had the discussion about them at the Earp Expo panel,
Yeah.
Yep.
even
Thank
more
you for that. Yes.
even
Mhm.
more boops from the writers to fans to know what's important to us.
Yeah.
Who gets this, folks? Who gets this? Nobody but us.
You do, yeah.
That's the best part because like people, like I remember watching the first two to almost like halfway through 3 seasons before I like even engaged on social media with the fandom. And then once I did, I was like, oh wait, what? And I like went back and rewatched the entire show because I was like, I missed so much. Like as a casual watch, like no, I wasn't a casual watcher, but like people who are casually watching and doesn't know some of these inside things or like moments, like it's so fascinating when you think about it. Like you can watch an entire show. How many years from now somebody stumbles upon the show, watches the whole thing, and has no idea about like little throwbacks or little things. It's so fun. I love that about this fandom, and like it opened my eyes when I joined the fandom on Twitter. I was like, wait, sorry, that happened in season 1 in this episode, and it's a callback to this, which was this. And I was like, I can't even fathom this murder board of things that are awesome. Like I was like, I don't understand. And that's why I loved it, because I was like, oh great, like people are like paying attention way more than I am, but I get to reap the benefits of like finding it later on.
Even like the simple fact that you just said murder board, like that's a
Yeah.
callback to the show that of a
Yeah.
callback. Like
Yeah, like it's so fast. I love it. I love those little gems that people find. And like Jill, I see it all the time on like your Twitter. I'm like, wait, what? That's that? I didn't even like what? Like little things like that. I love. It's my favorite.
I've got a couple of friends on the Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV podcast that we do. And while they're fans of the show, much like you said, Kylie, they're not anywhere near as deep, for example, as us or many of the Earpers. And in some of our conversations about the shows and episodes there, they both, on occasion, have just apologized for like, I wish I got more of it. You all have something so special. I don't get it all. I don't see it all. And sometimes we lose sight of just how much those little things mean to us. So yeah, it's a whole nother level. And it's like we said many times, that's why many of us have trouble explaining it to the average person why the show is special, because everybody wants to hear about content, the story, and it's so much more of it. It's hard to make it translate. It really is.
One line from this episode, like it wasn't really related to any Earp sister thing, but when is it Brigitte, dressmaker chick, when she said, and it was kind of like in the middle of a bunch of other stuff, but when she says, "The chooser chooses," like that little line, I was like, that's really interesting. Like in anything, like talking about your friends that don't get into the show the way you do, Kevin, or that we do, like this, or like other people who've seen it but like don't get into it, or anything else. Like, what are you choosing to invest yourself in? And it's like what I enjoy so much about even like getting to know all of you more through doing these videos and getting involved however I have with the fandom. It is everyone has chosen to stay here and be here. And I realized she was a villain, which is kind of my jam. So, but there is so much truth told in this series by the bad guys. And I think that's part of why I personally enjoy it so much, is they are often just telling the truth when they're talking. And I don't think that exists in too many other storylines. That you can actually trust what's being told to you by the writer or by, whatever, by the character. It's all like interconnected in that mutual trust and decision to be somewhere.
Dare I ask anything else we wanted to cover from this one? Or any thoughts anyone wants to share?
No, I got my point about the hat out. That was my main one. That's the only thing I wrote down to talk about today was the hat. That's all I wrote down. Okay. I was like, remember to bring up the hat.
Oh my God.
Because you trusted that everyone else would bring up everything else important.
I knew everybody else was going to touch on everything else. I was like, you have to remember that.
All right. Well, as we said earlier, folks, we're definitely not done with videos. We're trying to figure out what we'll do next, maybe a season recap or something there. We're having too much fun to stop. So, but please, as you've been doing, share some comments here, insights. We've been learning a lot from many of you that have been sharing them on the comments. So please do keep them coming here. We greatly appreciate it very much. And just a big thank you to all of you who've been tuning in, checking out these videos, and this whole group of amazing people here. Just such a blast. Just very lucky to be a part of all this. So I think on that note, we will wrap up, and hope you enjoy it. And again, we will be back. We hope you all take care. Bye all.
See you soon.
Bye.